Guys, we live in a confused world, and it's tough today to be a Christian parent, but I want to give you 7 pro tips to make sure that you confidently raise strong adults. What 7 pro tips can I as a father implement into my parenting? Here we go. Pro tip number 1 is the word commitment. It is you being committed. And when I mean commitment, commitment has 2 parts, guys. Commitment has 2 parts. The first is dedication. It's saying yes, and it's constraint, saying no. So by dedication, you are saying yes to attending your kids' events. You are saying yes to one meal as a family every day. You are saying yes to attending church. You're saying yes to certain things, and it's constraint. It's saying no to certain things. It's giving your kids boundaries and limits. It's saying, I love you enough to put boundaries in your life, just like God does for us. He says, I'm committed to you, and I'm giving you boundaries. If you stay within these boundaries, you will have your best life. So be committed as a father. Pro tip number 2, know your child. So you need to understand a couple things. When it comes to our children, there are 2 things about knowing our child. There's general knowledge about knowing how children generally act at certain ages, right? Like we know what it was like from 0 to like 6 months. We know what it was like, from 2 to 3 years old. We can track this all the way through. We know how the human body develops in both boys and girls. And then specifically, we need to understand the specific temperaments of our children. Proverbs 22:6 says, train up your child in a way that he or she should go, and when they are older, they will not depart from it. If you really look at the original language there, it really means train up a child according to their bent. So know your child. No child is the same, and my 3 kids are all completely different. And man, once you figure out the first one, then the second one comes along, it just screws everything up. And so you got to figure out how to raise that one. So learning the temperament, learning the emotional abilities, learning their intellect. There's so much to learn about individual children, and it's our job as parents to know these specifics about our children. Pro tip number 3 goes along with commitment. It's consistency. And I've told you this over and over. Be boring. You're so consistent. I mean, show up so often in the lives of your kids that they see it as boring. When I think of consistency, I think of regularity, and I think of predictability, that your kids should just expect you at certain places consistently over time. And so when I'm talking about consistency, I'm also talking about that you're predictable with how you are going to handle your emotions, that your children know when they walk into the room that you're always going to be stable emotionally, that they know how to predict on a regular basis what your emotional state will be like, and when you are not feeling great emotionally, that you control it so that they don't walk into a hornet's nest. Also, it means to practice what you preach. It means that if you're going to put this demand or expectation on your children, that you live up to that you govern your behavior. Pittsburgh Steelers Hall of Fame coach Chuck Noll once said, what you do speaks so loudly, I can't hear what you say. And the next thing is promises. Keep them. But you're consistent in your promises. I would go one step further and say a great dad doesn't have to make promises. A great dad says it and he does it. No promises needed. Pro tip number 4 is protecting and providing. Do you know that in 2000, only 40% of children were expected to live with their parents until age 18? And in 2010, that number went up to 44%. And in 2020, with 48% of children not expected to live with their parents till they're 18. So maybe the parents should figure out their crap before they put it on their kids. Just a thought. Pro tip number 5, love their mother. Love their mother. This, James Dobson once said, hey, do you want to really love your children? Start by loving their mother. Love your mother. Ken Canfield said this, a strong marriage breeds security. The child does not need to fear that the foundation of her or his life, his or her parents' marriage, is suddenly going to shake and buckle and split apart. In fact, I would say this, your ministry has to overflow out of your marriage. It is so important. Pro tip number 6, which is what I'm probably the worst at, is active listening. Our homes in the stress bubble can be incredibly noisy, incredibly busy, It's very difficult sometimes for a dad in the bubble who's working all day to come home and decipher what the many voices within his family are telling him, but that is our role. And that is why I believe God made us so compartmentalized. So focus on that child, focus on your bride, and really listen and be active in engaging that conversation. Pro tip number 7 is spiritual equipping. Your job, and we've got multiple podcasts on what does it mean to be a spiritual leader, but basically it means 3 things. If you imagine a wall, it means to be a covering, it's protecting, presiding, and providing. So you preside over your family, you are a roof over your family, you provide within the individual rooms, you provide walls for each of the individual people living in the house, and you protect, you guard around the outside so that no interlopers can come in through the media and through the smartphone. Your job is to protect, provide, and preside, and that comes from the Greek word proistemi in 1 Timothy chapter 3 and Titus chapter 1. Hey guys, if this episode helped you, I encourage you to pass this on to a buddy. If you want to know more about what it means to be a spiritual leader, check out my new book, Dialed In, Reaching Your Full Capacity as a Man of God, specifically the chapter called The Leader. Until next time, feel the wet sand on the arena floor. Hear the deafening roar of the crowd. Taste the sweetness of victory. Smell the stench of battle. Get in the game. Get dirty. Grind it out. And be a man. You know, we often forget, guys, that God has called us to steward the bodies He gave us so that we'll be ready, healthy, and spiritually dangerous to fight the good fight. That's why we're so excited to partner with Mountain Tough Fitness Lab. Join me on my journey by going to mountaintough.com and getting your free 6-week trial when you type in the code ARENA30. You won't be disappointed. Stay dangerous.